Good morning and welcome back to News and Views. Welcome back to News and Views with me, Salaila Makridi, here on Salam Media. Being tongue-tied there. The time is around 8 minutes past 9, and we're really pleased that you stayed with us for the second hour of the show. In a bit, we'll be diving into a headline that has sparked significant interest and concern across the country. The arrest of a 35-year-old South African man, Ziyadh Hoorzook, for alleged contraventions of the Protection of Constitutional Democracy Against Terrorist and Related Activities Act, or in short, POCDATARA Act. The suspect was apprehended in Johannesburg following a years-long investigation by the Hawks, and this has been a really, interesting investigation, because at the heart of the matter are allegations of terror financing involving cryptocurrency transactions that are linked to a non-profit organization reportedly tied to international militant activities. And as South Africans grapple with the implications of this case, many questions arise. What does this POCDATARA Act actually entail? How does it protect our constitutional democracy? And what rights do individuals have when accused under such a serious charge? And to help us unpack the legal intricacies of this POCDATARA Act, and to help us understand how it applies in cases like this, I'm pleased to announce that we'll be joined by attorney Yousha, who's going to be helping us just unpack it a bit. Yousha Tayob, who's going to be giving us a bit more insight and information on this POCDATARA Act. How does it entail? What does it entail? How do you protect yourself from it? And just to know and understand a bit more on what goes into it, because a lot of people are getting interested into cryptocurrency. A lot of people are using Bitcoin and Luno and all of these cryptocurrency platforms, but don't really know and understand that there's such an act that they need to know and understand and adhere to. So if you have any questions, you can WhatsApp us on 0617660355, or you can join the conversation on X using the hashtag POCDATARA Act. And I'm going to be chatting to Yousha now. Yousha, Jazakallah so much for joining us. Welcome to Salam Media. Really appreciate you giving us your time this morning.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you and the listeners.
I think first and foremost, can you start off with the basics? Can you give us a brief overview of the POCDATARA Act and its main objectives? What is it all about?
Okay, so, without sounding boring, the easiest way is to read the preamble to the Act. And I'll just read it as quickly as I possibly can. It says, to provide for measures to prevent and combat terrorist and related activities, to provide for an offense of terrorism and other offenses associated or connected with terrorist activities, to provide for convention of offenses, to give effect to international instruments dealing with terrorist and related activities, and the most important one for me, to provide for a mechanism to comply with United Nations Security Council resolutions which are binding on member states. And then there are a whole host of other requirements. So what essentially happened is post 1994, South Africa signed up with a number of international treaties and conventions because it became a member of the international community, apartheid having been abolished. And so a number of agreements were entered into with numerous other countries and United Nations, and we adopted a lot of legislation into our law. And then post the events of 2001, the United States and the Western governments sought to implement anti-terror legislation. And essentially what happened is, even though that legislation was published for adoption in South Africa and numerous objections were raised to it by the MLA in regard to the anti-terror legislation simply being imported from these US and other Western superpowers, being copied and pasted into our law, which eventually happened because the objections were not dealt with in our view. And the ANC, having been classified a terror organization previously, we thought would give them a more educated, sympathetic view. But it would seem that our government at post 2001 and certainly in 2005, when this POCDATARA legislation was adopted, was willing to quickly forget its past, and it's taken its independence away from determining who and what is a terrorist organization and leaving that purely in the hands of the UN. And we know how ineffective an organization the UN is and has become and has been. So the legislation is essentially designed to implement international law in South Africa and to comply with these international obligations in regard to terrorism post 2001. And so the objectives of the Act are those of America and Western powers in how they define terrorism, the ANC forgetting obviously its history, taking away its ability to distinguish what is, and we can get to Ziyad's matter just now, because a month or so ago, HTS was a listed organization, and a month later, it's no longer a listed organization. So that's how fickle the definition of terrorism can be. And I mean, there are other facts that we'll be beginning to dig on Ziyad's matter that are hopefully going to show up the state's case as being without substance. And as another media house put it, they want to concentrate on these kind of things when there's substantially bigger things to do, considering South Africa's grey listing, and how this one case is going to affect it in such a big way. So that in essence is it.
Yes, I want to just quickly, just looking at time, I want us to focus on Ziyad's case specifically. He's accused of using cryptocurrency to fund activities that are allegedly linked to terror groups. What do we know so far regarding this case? And also, how does the POCDATARA Act define terrorist financing, and what evidence would typically be required, to prosecute someone within such a case?
All right. So he's charged in the main charge. I mean, there's a main count, and then there are four alternatives, and then there's a second count with regard to not having kept his firearms in a safe place. But if I have regard to Section 4 Sub 1. Well, it's essentially Section 4 that they're charging him with. Sorry, I'm just getting there. In essence, in about September last year, he noticed that there were cars near his place of residence, near his place of work, and in fact, on one occasion, he had to do a dodging act on the highway because he believed he was being followed. In about August, September last year. What then happened on the 3rd of October 2024 is that they managed to come with what a search and seizure warrant to search his premises and to seize electronic equipment, presumably now to get the information that they thought he had stored on his phone or other electronic equipment, in order to clone and or download that and use that in evidence against him. They then conducted the search and seizure operation on the 3rd of October, and the documents they brought were just the search and seizure warrant. The search and seizure warrant in its own referred to two annexures. When I was briefed on the matter, I immediately called for a copy of these annexures, and it was given to me in piecemeal only around the 15th of November 2024. Surprisingly, I was told at that point that there was no need to provide the statement which I'd undertaken to provide. Obviously, I couldn't provide the statement when the search and seizure warrant was executed because I wasn't provided with all the documents. That only came on the 15th of November 2024. And when I had all the documents given to me on the same day, the investigating officer indicated to me that the statement was not necessary, and that he would come back to me shortly, as he suspected the devices the investigation on the devices would be complete. He then called me, and so I didn't send a statement. He then called me on the 30th or 31st of December and said to me that Ziyadh can go and collect all his devices at the Sandringham police station, and they were done with the investigation. And so I arranged for Ziyadh to then collect it. And then without notice, complete gangster style, we all know what Friday afternoon arrests entail. On the 3rd of January, close to about 4 o'clock, they arrived there, hawk style, and arrested him. And then he was kept at the Randburg cells for Friday and Saturday, and then transported to Lichtenburg on the Sunday, where he's currently held. He appeared on Monday, and a formal bail application will be lodged on this coming Friday. And we're hopeful that we can get bail for him. So that's, in a nutshell, the facts as they occurred. When you look at Section 4, it particularly makes reference, and the heading is offenses associated or connected with financing of specified offenses. Sub 1 talks about any person who directly or indirectly, in whole or in part, and by any means or method, acquires property, collects property, uses property, possesses property, owns property, provides or makes available, or invites a person to provide or make available property. And then it goes on with a number of subsections, and that says solicits or facilitates the acquisition, collection, use, or provision of property, financial or other service. And so that's the section that the main charge relates to, Section 4 sub 1. And then there are various alternatives to that charge. But in essence, what they say is that, and I'll get back to the commentary just now, but they say that in about November of 2017, he received an advertisement on his phone via Telegram for financing of jihad. And again, they don't define the jihad yet. They'll have to define it once the charge sheet is finalized. But they all, like all other Western governments, the only jihad they know about is the one they say is the violent one. They don't understand the concept of jihad completely from a deen perspective. They say because he transferred money to them, and that ad specifically referred to jihad, that he funded terrorism to an organization called Al Sadaqah. Thus far, our investigations reveal that in November 2017, Al Sadaqah was formed as a charity organization. And in fact, the photo on which they rely in persecuting him only came out sometime in 2018. So and we know that photograph was also related to a case conducted in the United States against several individuals there. So we're in the early stages of the investigation. Our objective right now is getting Ziyadh out on bail, inshallah, on Friday, and from there we'll then assess what evidence the state has. And thus far, like I said, we've gathered some proof that the organization he provided, well, he doesn't remember it, to tell you the truth. So allegedly provided to this organization in 2017. He when consulted initially on the warrant, he couldn't recall it at all. But he is a regular giver of charity, as he's obliged to do as a Muslim. And one of the responses will be in regard to the merits, insofar as we need to address it in the bail application, that he was not aware that this was a listed organization, and we're currently having trouble finding the 2017 listed organizations. It seems like when they get updated, they only produce the new ones and they don't show you the old ones. So it's going to take a little bit of investigation on our part to try and find the 2017 UN terror list. But there are a number of what we say technical difficulties in this matter, and unless the state's case is ready, we're slightly in the dark. And like I said, the priority right now is bail.
I want to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to focus on the process of securing bail for Ziyadh, and also just some of the layers of this case, which include cryptocurrency and just the legal framework around it, and also just the general rights of the accused in this matter. But we'll discuss all of that after the short break.
Stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
The kitchen, the heart of the home, where memories are made and celebrated. Our go-to place for those freshly stacked pancakes early in the morning, or for that late-night snack munchies. We are in there together, cooking, eating, and celebrating life together. Let's keep the kitchen a place that is shared by everyone, where we build stronger bonds and grow together. Sunfoil, now we cooking. Visit nowwecooking.co.za for recipes that everyone can help make.
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic, Sharia, and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings from short-term to life and investments. A full-service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
Hey Gulam.
Yeah?
Did I return your lawnmower last month?
No.
Oh, now what'll I do? I wanted to borrow it again, man.
With Rendry Jewelers, you won't have to borrow or lend because the prices are so well trimmed on all gold and diamond jewelry. Alternatively, we could remake your old jewelry into a brilliant new design. Visit Rendry Jewelers at 151 Stevens Lamini Road, Musgrave, Durban. Rendry Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
Penny Appeal's Education First campaign helps children to get access to quality education.
I'm 14 years old. When I grow up, I'd like to be a scientist.
We believe every child belongs at school,
And we want education, a better education.
learning and dreaming their way to a better future. With your help, we can provide classrooms, desks, stationery packs, and school shoes. Help make these dreams a reality. Visit www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference. Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Welcome back. You're still tuned in to Salam Media. The time is 26 minutes past 9, and we're still focusing on a headline that has sparked significant interest and concern across the country. And this is the arrest of 35-year-old South African man Ziyadh Hoorzook for alleged contraventions of the Protection of Constitutional Democracy Act, terrorist and related activities. So basically, the Hawks and the law enforcement are saying, well, he used cryptocurrency to fund a terrorist organization. And we're speaking to Yousha Tayob, who's an attorney who's giving us in-depth information on this case and also educating us a bit about the POCDATARA Act and what it entails. Yousha, Jazakallah so much for staying with us. Before you went on that short break, I wanted to focus a bit on just the rights of the accused when it comes to this case. What rights does an individual like Ziyadh have? Someone that has been accused of contravening the POCDATARA Act have during an investigation and trial process. We know the issue of bail is a really big one, and also number two. This case, the investigation of this case, I think dates back to around 2018, yet the arrest was only made now. What does this say about the process of building a case under this act, which has so much nitty-gritties around it?
Yeah, look. So look. I mean, the standard right in South African law is innocent until proven guilty. But attached to the Criminal Procedure Act are a number of schedules. There's currently a dispute as to whether this is going to fall into terms of Schedule 5 or Schedule 6, and each of these schedules have different requirements in order to establish bail. The state is certainly leaning into that this is a Schedule 6 offense. They've certainly maintained that view since the arrest until Monday and probably until this Friday, which means that we, as the attorneys for the accused, will have to prove exceptional circumstances for the granting of bail. It's a substantial hurdle to cross, but hopefully we will be able to do that to show that he's not a flight risk. And the issue really is, if he was under surveillance since on his version August September of this year, and then raided in October, and he hasn't run. I mean, he's not been a flighter. He hasn't no attempt to leave the country or any of those things.
All right, we seem to have lost Yousha Tayob a bit, but as we try to get hold of him, I think you can send us through your questions that you'd like to ask, Yousha. I think it's very, very important that we know and understand this act so that, we also don't fall victim into, these kind of things. So if you want to, have questions, you have thoughts regarding this case or questions about the POCDATARA Act, you can send us your WhatsApp message on 0617660355, or you can tweet us using the hashtag news and views, and we'll try to get your questions answered live. And one that's very, very important is the fact that we're heading into Ramadan soon, and a lot of Muslims will be giving to charities as one of the pillars of Islam, and maybe Attorney Yousha could give a bit of advice, in light of this case on what to look for when giving. We seem to have Attorney Yousha back. Yousha, before we lost you there, we're still talking about
Hello, am I
the
back?
granting of. Yes, you're back, and we can hear you loud and clear. We were just talking about
Hello.
the. Are you able to hear me? All right. It seems Yousha can't hear me. We'll try
Hello?
and get him. We'll try and get him back on air, but because there's still a lot that needs to be answered. And as I mentioned before, if you have any questions, I think you can send us a WhatsApp on 0617660355 or tweet us using the hashtag news and views. So yeah, very, very concerning, very, very important discussion that we're having. POCDATARA Act, did you know about it? Do you know what does it entail? Especially for those that are into the usage of cryptocurrencies, and using that as a means of payment, means of sending and giving out charity to different organizations. I think this is a very, very important act to know and understand. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I'm sure we'll be having Attorney Yousha Tayob back with us to answer some of those questions.
With Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories. Or call 5920-925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name, Valley's Motor.
Humanity sets the agenda.
All right, we're still speaking to Yousha Tayob. He's an attorney, and he's giving us, I think, a lot of insight regarding Ziyadh Hoorzook's case, and his charges contravening the POCDATARA Act. Yousha, can you hear me? Can you see me? We lost you for a moment there.
I can see you and I can hear you. Can you see and hear me?
Perfectly. Unfortunately,
Okay.
we are running out of time, so I would like us to just wrap it up a bit. We have a few questions from our listeners. One is with the month of Ramadan coming, many Muslims would be giving to charities from all across the world. In light of this case, what kind of advice would you give the fellow Muslims who are looking to give, especially during the month of Ramadan?
Yeah, so I think the issue really is, you according to this act, and to avoid the prosecution, please continue to give. Just establish the legitimacy of the organization you're giving it to for charitable purposes. And unfortunately, if it has the jihad word in it, I would stay away from it for now until we can establish to the South African and world community that jihad is not the violence that they see. Jihad is substantially more than that.
Mm, mm, mm. And just another question coming from our listener. Does the POCDATARA Act say anything about South Africans that are serving in foreign militaries? I think this is one issue that has come quite strongly, particularly when it comes to the issue of Palestine, where you have South Africans serving in the IDF. Is there any way that the POCDATARA Act can be used to hold them accountable?
Yes, that in addition to the regulation of Foreign Military Assistance Act, which directly prohibits that kind of activity, and which, and mind you, we've referred that to the NPA with substantial evidence, which is current, and they still haven't acted on it. So it clearly is a selective prosecution. But Section 3 of the Act makes reference to any person who does anything which will or is likely to enhance the ability of any entity to engage in a terrorist activity. The difficulty with this act, applying it there, is that Israel is not considered a terrorist state, and serving in the IDF is not considered a terrorist entity, whereas in fact it is the biggest of them all, and the UN has not called it out as such. So that's the contradiction, that's the irony of all of this legislation, is we have all these great laws from the state, but we can't implement them with any form of ethics or morality, but rather double standard.
And just in closing, as brief as you can, with regard to this case, what's going to be the next steps going forward in the next upcoming days? What kind of steps would you be taking, and what kind of information the public needs to know and look out for in the next coming days and weeks?
Yeah, so inshallah, the bail application at the Lichtenburg court on Friday. Inshallah, we will get bail. Once we know the reasoning, if it's declined, Allah forbid, we will make an assessment on a bail appeal, and hopefully we will get him out on bail. And then it will be for the state to indicate when it is ready for trial, give us the contents of the docket so we understand the case we need to meet. And thereafter, we will make decisions on trial and calling the relevant witnesses in regard to whatever evidence the state alleges has been a breach of this act and or the Criminal Procedure Act.
All right, perfect. I think we're going to leave on that note. Jazakallah so much, Yousha, for giving us your time and for your insights on this case. It's going to be a very, very important one for South Africans and particularly Muslims to look out for in the next coming weeks. But we're going to leave it here for now. We really appreciate it.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam. That was Attorney Yousha Tayob giving us insight, I think, on a very, very important case and one that is demanding of our attention. The arrest of 35-year-old Ziyadh Hoorzook for alleged contraventions of the Protection of Constitutional Democracy Against Terrorist and Related Activities Act. So essentially, he's been charged with funding a terrorist organizations. And we want to hear your thoughts, all your questions regarding this case, or maybe your knowledge or questions around the POCDATARA Act, and you can send them through our WhatsApp. Our number is 0617660355, or you can tweet us using the hashtag News and Views. And if you missed this interview, you can check out the podcast on our website later on in the day, you can take a listen to it and get as much information as you can, particularly because we're heading to the month of Ramadan. We know it's a month of giving. We know that giving is one of the pillars of Islam, and a lot of people will be giving to various charity organizations from across the world, there's going to be cases like this if we're not careful and if we don't read through the fine print and get to know and understand some of these cases and some of these organizations that you'll be giving to. So very, very important discussion and very, very important case to keep a keen eye on as we kick start 2025. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, News and Views continues after this.